Hi boys and girls, I'm going to read to you Chrysanthemum by one of my very favorite children's book authors, Kevin Henkes. See that flower? That's a chrysanthemum. And that little mouse, her name is Chrysanthemum. Now, as we read books, sometimes we notice that characters go through changes from the beginning of the story through to the end. Like maybe they change their behavior and how they act, or maybe they change how they think or view something or how they feel about something. Well, Chrysanthemum goes through some changes too. So let's read, and I want you to notice how Chrysanthemum changes throughout the story. Chrysanthemum by Kevin Henkes. She's a baby. The day she was born was the happiest day of her parents' lives. She's perfect, said her mother. Absolutely, said her father. And she was. She was absolutely perfect. Her name must be everything she is, said her mother. Her name must be absolutely perfect, said her father. And it was. Chrysanthemum. Her parents named her Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum grew and grew and grew. And when she was old enough to appreciate it, Chrysanthemum loved her name. She loved the way it sounded when her mother woke her up. She loved the way it sounded when her father called her for dinner. And she loved the way it sounded when she whispered it to herself in the bathroom mirror. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum loved the way her name looked when it was written with ink on an envelope. She loved the way it looked when it was written with icing on her birthday cake. And she loved the way it looked when she wrote it herself with her fat orange crayon. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. So she loved her name, didn't she? Chrysanthemum thought her name was absolutely perfect, and then she started school. On the first day, Chrysanthemum wore her sunniest dress and her brightest smile. She ran all the way. Hooray, said Chrysanthemum, school! But when Mrs. Chudd took roll call, everyone giggled upon hearing Chrysanthemum's name. Well, there's Mrs. Chudd, and she's taking attendance. That's Dawn and Eve and Lois and Al, Les, Kay, Max, Sue, Bill, Pat, Tom, Sam, Ken, Joe, Rita, Victoria, Chrysanthemum. It's so long, said Joe. It scarcely fits on your name tag, said Rita, pointing. I'm named after my grandmother, said Victoria. You're named after a flower. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and informed Mrs. Chudd that Chrysanthemum's name was spelled with 13 letters. That's exactly half as many letters as there are in the entire alphabet, Victoria explained. Thank you for sharing with us, Victoria, said Mrs. Chudd. Now put your head down. If I had a name like yours, I'd change it, Victoria said as the students lined up to go home. I wish I could, thought Chrysanthemum miserably. Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. My name is too long. It scarcely fits on my name tag, and I'm named after a flower. Oh, psst, said her mother. Your name is beautiful and precious and priceless and fascinating and winsome, said her father. It's everything you are, said her mother. Absolutely perfect, said her father. Chrysanthemum felt much better after her favorite dinner, macaroni and cheese with ketchup, and an evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. And that night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that her name was Jane. It was an extremely pleasant dream. So she dreamed that her name was short, and she liked it, huh? The next morning, Chrysanthemum wore her most comfortable jumper. She walked to school as slowly as she could. She dragged her feet in the dirt. Chrysanthemum, 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 she wrote. She even looks like a flower, said Victoria as Chrysanthemum entered the playground. Let's pick her, said Rita, pointing. Let's smell her, said Joe. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. Aw, poor Chrysanthemum. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and said, a chrysanthemum is a flower. It lives in the garden with worms and other dirty things. Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria, said Mrs. Chud. Now put your head down. I just cannot believe your name, Victoria said as the students lined up to go home. Neither can I, thought Chrysanthemum miserably. Does Chrysanthemum like her name? Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. They said I look like a flower. They pretended to pick me and smell me. Oh, psst, said her mother. They're just jealous and envious and begrudging and discontented and jaundiced, said her father. Well, who wouldn't be jealous of a name like yours, said her mother. After all, it's absolutely perfect, said her father. Chrysanthemum felt a trifle better after her favorite dessert, chocolate cake with buttercream frosting, and another evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. Well, that night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that she really was a chrysanthemum. She sprouted leaves and petals. Victoria picked her and plucked the leaves and the petals one by one until there was nothing left but a scrawny stem. It was the worst nightmare of Chrysanthemum's life. Chrysanthemum wore her outfit with 7 pockets the next morning. She loaded the pockets with her most prized possessions and her good luck charms. Chrysanthemum took the longest route possible to school. She stopped and stared at each and every flower. Chrysanthemum, 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 the flowers seemed to say. Well, that morning the students were introduced to Mrs. Twinkle, the music teacher. Her voice was like something out of a dream, as was everything else about her. The students were speechless. They thought Mrs. Twinkle was an indescribable wonder. They went out of their way to make a nice impression. Mrs. Twinkle led the students in scales. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And then she assigned roles for the class musicale. Victoria was chosen as the dainty fairy queen. Rita was chosen as the spiffy butterfly princess. Joe was chosen as the all-important pixie messenger, and Chrysanthemum was chosen as a daisy. Chrysanthemum's a daisy, chrysanthemum's a daisy, Joe, Rita, and Victoria chanted, thinking it was wildly funny. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. What's so humorous? Asked Mrs. Twinkle. Chrysanthemum was the answer. Her name is so long, said Joe. It scarcely fits on her name tag, said Rita, pointing. I'm named after my grandmother, said Victoria. She's named after a flower. My name is long, said Mrs. Twinkle. It is, said Joe. My name would scarcely fit on a name tag, said Mrs. Twinkle. It would, said Rita, pointing. And, said Mrs. Twinkle, I'm named after a flower, too. You are? Said Victoria. Oh, yes, said Mrs. Twinkle. My name is Delphinium. Delphinium Twinkle. And if my baby is a girl, if my baby is a girl, I'm considering Chrysanthemum as a name. I think it is absolutely perfect. Chrysanthemum could scarcely believe her ears. She blushed, she beamed, she bloomed. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Joe, Rita, and Victoria looked at Chrysanthemum longingly. Call me Marigold, said Joe. I'm Carnation, said Rita, pointing. My name is Lily of the Valley, said Victoria. So they wanted their names to be flower names too, huh? Well, Chrysanthemum did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She knew it. And I'll read the epilogue. This is what happens later. Overall, the class musicale was a huge success. Chrysanthemum was absolutely perfect as a daisy. Victoria made the only mistake. She completely forgot her lines as the dainty fairy queen. Chrysanthemum thought it was wildly funny, and she giggled throughout the entire dance of the flowers. Well, eventually, Mrs. Twinkle gave birth to a healthy baby girl, and of course, she named her Chrysanthemum. Did you like that one? Oh, I did too. Now, did you notice how Chrysanthemum changed? Yeah, so at the beginning of the story, how did Chrysanthemum feel about her name? Did she like it? Oh, yes, she loved her name. She loved the way it sounded. She loved the way it looked, right? She thought her name was absolutely perfect. And then she started school. So how did she feel about her name when she started school? Did she like it? No, you're right. She did not like her name. She did not think it was perfect. She thought it was dreadful. Why? Why did she stop liking her name? The other mice were teasing her. They were laughing at her, making fun of her name. And it caused Chrysanthemum to feel badly about her name. Now, at the end of the story, Chrysanthemum changed her mind again. How did she feel about her name at the end? Did she like it? Yes, she did. She loved it again. And what made her change her mind? Oh, yes, Mrs. Twinkle. Mrs. Twinkle had a long name. It would scarcely fit on a name tag. And she was named after a flower, too. In fact, she said that if her baby was a girl, she was going to name it Chrysanthemum. That's right. And how did that make the other children feel? Oh, yes. They wished their names were flower names, didn't they? And how they feel about Chrysanthemum then? And do you think that they played with her then? Oh, yeah, they probably did. And how'd that make Chrysanthemum feel? Really good, right? Everybody wants to have friends and have people like them. Nobody wants to be teased. So did you see then how Chrysanthemum changed the way she felt about her name from the beginning of the story throughout the story? At first, she loved her name, and then she thought it was dreadful. And at the end, she loved her name again. Yeah. Okay, well, friends, I have a little activity for us. I'm going to get out my crayons and some paper, and we're going to practice writing our name, and we're going to write it rainbow style. Alrighty, let's do some rainbow writing. So parents, you'll want to write your child's name either with a pencil or a highlighter, and making sure that you pay attention to those tall capital letters and make those nice and tall, and then the shorter letters. And if there are some hanging letters, go ahead and make sure they're hanging down. We want the kids to practice writing their names using correct letter formation and spacing, so that's important. All right, kiddos, you get to choose 5 colors or more. But I'm going to choose red. Let's see, I'm going to choose like some of the colors of the rainbow. Red and orange. I'll do yellow and green and blue. You know what? I'm going to do 6 colors. Okay, so you could do 5 or more. And remember, when you're writing your letters, you're going to sit up nice and straight and tall, put your tummy to the table, and hold your paper with the hand that you're not writing with, all right? And when we write our name, we always start at the left and we go to the right. So whatever crayon you've chosen to draw with first, go ahead and begin writing your letters, trying to stay on the lines the best you can. If you get off the line, no big deal. Just do it next time, all right? Now, I chose red, so I've got to do every letter of my name red before I get to choose another color. So let me do this big capital P. As you're writing your letters, you should be saying them too. That way you get familiar with the letter names. So I would say E and Z. Now I've written every single letter in my name with the red crayon. Now I can get a new color. So I choose orange. Once again, I'm going to start on the left. Okay, and I'll say my letters as I write them. M, R, S is curvy, capital P, E. Now, can I switch crayons yet? Not yet. I still have some letters to write. So I'm going to write every letter with my orange crayon. E and Z. Now I can get a new color. So you're going to go over each letter with each color, write it the whole way through. Be capital P, E, R, E, Z. Okay, and your next color, capital M, R, S, capital P, E, R, E, Z. Now I can get a new color. Oh, another neat thing that you can do so that you remember how to make your letters correctly, you can tell yourself how to make the letters, right? So you say what you do and you do what you say. You're going to train your brain. So for capital M, I'm going to make a stick down, pick up my crayon, slide down, slide up and down. M. R, a stick, back up and a hook. R. S is curvy like a snake. S. P, a stick, pick up your crayon, and around. P, E, across and around. R, a stick, back up and a hook. E, across and up and around. E, Z, zig, zag, Z. See how you can do that? You'll train your brain, and then that way, making letters will come easier to you. It'll be more automatic. And a stick and a hook, and curvy like a snake, S, and a stick and around, P, across and around, E, stick and a hook, R, across, up and around, E, Z, zig, zag, Z. All right, so you've practiced writing your name rainbow style, and you can do it again. And this is an activity that you can do over and over because it's fun, and the repetition helps you out. All right, thanks for joining me, and we will see you next time.